Welcome back to another episode of Scot Talk with head coach Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lednusky. We're live at Charlie's Pub and Eatery and a 29-14 win on the road at East Stroudsburg, which unfortunately feels like it was 2 weeks ago. Oh, wait, it was 2 weeks ago. We'll get into the schedule. Is it an upside? Is it a downside? But I wanted to start with this because we talked about this last week, Coach, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. What was going to be in your mindset? I mean, not only is Edinboro 1-0, but you are 1-0. We talked a lot about what your mindset was going to be, what the emotions were going to be. You know, I saw you pregame. I didn't know if you were coaching or playing. But kind of walk us through the emotion, your first go-round as the head guy, pregame, you know, your speech, halftime, kind of walk us through the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously just very thankful and grateful to my staff. They worked their butts off to get the trip ready to go. Everything was flawlessly executed from the hotel to the snack to the hour or two that we had to spend outside of our rooms waiting around for a pregame meal to getting down there to our staff having the locker room set up ready to go. I mean, everything just ran so smoothly. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better first outing as a head football coach. And, again, a lot of that is a credit to my staff, our support staff, for just doing a great job of being locked in all week, making sure that we didn't have any distractions leading up to the game and just allowing our guys to be able to play.
Now, what was your mindset in the last sort of moments? I'm sure once the ball got kicked off, it was just football. But what, you know, if you don't mind, kind of share with us what it was like for you. Obviously, you know, there was jitters for everybody, but you know, this is sort of I hope it's not the culmination of your career, but you spend all the years, you know, being a GA and, you know, doing the things that you don't want to do. Did you get a moment to sort of reflect on your past right before the ball got teed up?
No, I mean, I think probably the one moment I thought about it was when you and I were probably talking last week, but leading up to the game and get to the game, I was just focused on making sure that I was doing everything I could to be the best head coach to support our coaches, support our players, and making sure that we got our job done. And like I said, it was a great ride. It was a great moment. You look back on it, you'll remember it. But it's like we said, it's back to work. And right after we got back on Friday, we thought about it for a minute, and it was back to getting ready for Kutztown.
Now, obviously, you don't want to, you know, go too far down the rabbit hole, but going to East Stroudsburg and winning is no small task. They were 10-2 last year, picked to finish second in the East this year. And, you know, I was kind of, as we were waiting to head home, kind of milling around, I'm like, this is not nothing. This was something that I think that not only, you know, caught a lot of people by surprise, but I think it caught a lot of people in the league by surprise. But it was no mistake. I mean, we had 3 sustained drives. This is astounding. 11 plays, 75 yards, 605. 7 plays, 71 yards, and 405. And then the last scoring drive, 17 plays, 88 yards, 1305 off the game clock. These weren't pick sixes and mistakes. This was from beginning to end. I know we'll get to the things that you're not happy about, but from beginning to end, by and large, I don't want to use the word perfect, but it was better than average.
Yeah, you know, Coach Griffith and the offensive staff just did a tremendous job. Nico Marchitelli, you know what I mean? You saw his veteran savviness. You saw why we wanted him to be our starting quarterback. He's been in it before. He's won football games in this league before. You saw him really command our offense. I mean, every time I'm like, oh, we're getting close to the delay here, and he's getting the ball snapped off, and he's doing what he needs to do. So, I mean, kudos to him and to our offensive staff and to our players that made plays. I mean, the wide receiver core was lights out. You know, obviously we're going to talk to Jaret here in a minute, but, you know, Gavin Ennis on the 1-3 down made an unbelievable catch. I mean, the way we were able to sustain drives was because we executed. We didn't ask our guys to do anything that they were uncomfortable doing. We weren't out there gunslinging. We weren't out there being impatient. That's what happens sometimes when, you know, you're the underdog going into a game. You start getting a team on their heels, and then you get impatient and you try to go throw a shot down the field and you turn it over. And there were some times where I thought, man, we might have messed it up 5 minutes left in the game. We turned the ball over, you know, things like that. But you know, all I kept doing is just getting in Zach's ear, just keep chugging along, man. Just keep chugging along. Don't keep taking the air out of the ball. And it was a great. We just executed it to a T there. So
you mentioned Nico, 19 of 25, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 178 yards. I think we'll agree on the one pick that was one that he'd like to have back. The second pick, the first pick was kind of it bounces off somebody's helmet. It's not a round object. It kind of goes in unintended directions. But I thought, back to your point when you talked about, and a lot of times game management is taken as a negative thing. I'd rather have a game manager that wins than a gunslinger that loses, right? He made the right decisions. The ball came out on time. I said there was really one bad throw. I think it was the third touchdown to Jared. Looked like Mahomes kind of throwing back across the middle. We had him on the show last week. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about just what you saw? You alluded to it, that you knew that you wanted him to be your guy, but can we take that a step further?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're just starting to see him scratch the surface in what we're doing offensively, and he's just so comfortable out there. Even when he makes a mistake, you know what I mean? Like, he's coachable. He's not a guy that needs to show everybody how upset he is. Like, he's just like, all right, I got to do better than that. You guys want me to do better than that, and let's keep moving forward. And again, that's just that maturity that you're looking for in a quarterback. And we know there's going to be some tough days. There's going to be some adversity ahead. But again, I couldn't be more proud of just the way he handles himself, the way he's just a great teammate. Gets to knows everybody on the team, not just the guys that are making plays on Saturday, but everybody on the team. He knows those guys, and so he's just a great leader, and I couldn't be more happy to have him on our team. You
held McTaggart in check. Not many people have been able to do that. They were 2 of 4 in the red zone. You held them to 3 of 10 on third down. I guess this is my observation. I don't know if this is always going to be the case, but apparently if you're a 3, that's when you're in trouble. The amount of reps that, guys that I would view as 2s or we saw as 2s through camp, I mean, they're playing in important minutes with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. How many defensive players did in fact play? And what is the difference between a 1 and a 2? Because it almost seemed like it was 50-50 playing time.
Yeah, I mean, defensive line wise, those guys are definitely 1A, 1B. At the will spot there, we played two guys between Nick Bogan and Nate Ewell. And then at the Mo spot, Zidane Thomas and Carlos Morales were basically 2 and 2. Probably in the safety spot was probably where we didn't rotate. And I've always been kind of hard pressed as far as rotating those guys, just because they're so important to what we do. And we try to make sure that they're fresh, but rotate them not as much as we probably do the other spots. Corners, we were 3 over 2 there at that spot. So that's his learning experience at New Haven and being a defensive coordinator, where you got to get those guys out there because you're going to need them at some point. And so we try to play as many guys as we can that are deserving of it. I mean, we get those guys equal amount of reps in practice, and we try to be fast from a scout team standpoint so that we can get a lot of guys a lot of reps and make sure they're ready to go, because we're going to need them. I tell them all the time, we need 22. We need 22 to be able to play. We know that at some point we're going to need somebody to go out there and play for us in some tough snaps. So.
Deans and Dex each had a pick, but I would be remiss if I did not specifically ask about Kamar Meza. He was spectacular in how many breakups, and just his willingness to come tackle. Even on Sundays, corners aren't necessarily interested in lowering the shoulder.
Yeah, that was obviously great to see, because as we lead into this week, that's going to be something that Kutztown forces you to do. They're going to force your secondary to have to tackle condensed sets, trying to bounce the ball out onto the perimeter. Versus Assumption last week, those guys really struggled to be able to tackle their running backs and to leverage the run game when it bounced to the perimeter. So that's something we've been focusing on, but he just did a great job of attacking his leverage and pulling his trigger. And that's what I tell our guys all the time. It's okay if you miss the tackle. It's not okay if you let the ball get outside of you, away from where you're supposed to be leveraging the ball. So he did a tremendous job.
Scot Talk with Matt Scott. We're live at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Quick timeout. The PSAC West Offensive Player of the Week from 2 weeks ago, Jaret Frantz, will join us. 3 touchdown catches. Coach, we will turn the page to Kutztown when you jump back on. Jaret Frantz when we come back. This is Scot Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lednusky. Back with more right after this. Welcome back to Charlie's Pub and Eatery. It's Scot Talk with, well, that's not Matt Scott. That's Jaret Frantz, but that's the name of the show. Coach Scott will join us as we turn the page to talk about Kutztown coming up in just a bit. But Jaret Frantz, 6 catches, 78 yards, 3 touchdowns, PSAC Player of the Week 2 weeks ago. Jaret, first of all, I wanted to, because it was in the press box and people had asked me, like, did you and Nico play together prior? I'm like, no, I think they've only started throwing the ball around about 7 or 8 weeks ago. Obviously, you guys have put the extra time in, but what's it been like to get – I mean, it does look like you guys have been playing football since the junior high. The 3rd touchdown in particular, the touch where he knew to put it on the first 2 touchdowns. But what's that been like? And it certainly looks like it's been fairly easy.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I mean, shout out to Nico. I feel like, I get the same type of vibes. I feel like we have been playing for a long time, just the way that we kind of understand each other already. Go over the summer, going into camp, I feel like we've got a lot of work. We've prepared well. We came out here and expected that we were going to do this. We had a plan in place. We've been doing this in practice for weeks now, for months now, and we were just ready to go. And so I feel like the game against East Stroudsburg was just the first step to a huge season.
Now, it was certainly, Coach alluded to Gavin Ennis had a couple of nice 3rd down conversions, but Day Allen had 6 catches for 43 yards. The ball was shared, right? It wasn't like it was force-fed. Obviously, you're a big target. You're going to be the guy probably in the red zone. Bizon and Neely would probably be the guys. But in terms of, how much easier things kind of came together, Nico, I mean, it was out. Like, I don't think he made the one bad throw, but other than that, I think he made all the right decisions. But, obviously guys have to be in the right spots. And with as much motion and as much, I mean, you alluded to Zach. I mean, I don't even waste my time until the clap and then the look over, because there's no point in telling where everybody's at, because everybody's going to motion out. You guys didn't have a procedural penalty, I don't believe. Talk about the preparation if you could, because you guys were really sharp for game 1.
Yeah, I just feel like ever since Coach Griff came in the spring, we were extremely bought in with everything that was going on. Listening to everything they were doing, just really buying in, understand what was going on. And then as far as Nico goes, he's just an extremely smart quarterback. He wasn't even here in the spring. He came in for a fall transfer, so he just has, since camp started, that's all the experience he has with this offense, and he's done a great job picking it up. He really understands it. He really loves his teammates. He's a great teammate himself. And the preparation has been huge. We've watched a ton of film. We've been on the field when we don't have to be on the field, throwing routes, getting a connection with each other, talking to each other, hanging out as boys, getting that connection. And I feel like it's just been monstrous as far as our play out on the field goes. And I feel like we really showed that against East Stroudsburg.
Now, I got to ask, it's not ideal. You have a huge win, and then you have a week off. What was that week like? Obviously, I'm sure that's about as good as a 5-hour bus ride across I-80 can be. That's about the only time that's a good ride. But what was that week? Because then you had the holiday, you had days off, but obviously it was back to work. Even though you had a bye week, it's not ideal to have it in week 1 technically. Yeah. But what was that off week like?
It's definitely a little strange having the bye week 1. I try to get the guys all on the same page as far as understanding that we didn't win the PSAC yet. It was just one game. And at the end of the day, this is what we expected to do. So I mean, we're just all on the same page as far as, soaking that win in for 2 days maybe after the game. And then, going into this bye week, it's really Kutztown week. We're preparing for them. We're watching their film. We're understanding what they're doing. And it's just really 2 weeks for Kutztown. So it didn't, it was weird not playing on Saturday, but it wasn't anything crazy because we still had normal practices throughout the week and just a normal preparation week, really. It was a little bit lighter on our bodies. But this week, obviously today started, we're going to pick it back up and we're going to get ready to go for Kutztown.
Now, obviously, when you look at Kutztown, they are the gold standard. They've won the last 2 years. They are a team that is very, very good. Jim Clements has been spectacular. Is there an advantage? I believe they're number 4 in the country. Is there an advantage with that bye week? Because this is a team that's going to require, sure, you want to celebrate the win, but I think the opponent, because they've been so good for and you played them last year, is that not that you needed to be locked in, but I would imagine that opponent, kind of ratchets up the attention to detail even in the bye week.
Yeah, it definitely does. We're really focused on taking each week one game at a time, understanding that they all put their pants on in the morning the same way we do. They recruit guys out of New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania the same way we do. It's the same type of deal. We just got to execute, do what we're told to do, buy into what the coaches are telling us, and it's game on. It's 0-0 at the start of the game. So So we're ready. We're going to be ready to go.
Now, I asked this question, but I asked this question very differently now because Nico 2 weeks ago changed the world when I said, when you grow up, what do you want to do? Because I don't encourage growing up. And he said he wanted to be a professor. So I don't think you're going to top that answer, but I am curious, when football is done, what do you plan to do with your degree, and what are you going to do when you grow up?
So I have a criminal justice degree, and I plan to be a police officer.
Okay.
Back home somewhere.
If you would have said professor, I would have fallen out of the chair for sure. 2 straight weeks of having a professor, that would have been it. 6 grabs, 78 yards, 3 touchdowns, player of the week 2 weeks ago. Congratulations. I hope to be calling your name more frequently in the Plaid, specifically at noon on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
All right, more to come. Coach Scott, we're going to turn the page to Kutztown. No easy task. We saw them last year. I don't think it's going to be the 99.9 degrees like it was at Kutztown last year. I think we're going to have a beautiful weather forecast coming up. Coach Scott will join us. This is Scott Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lednusky. We're live at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Welcome back to Scott Talk with Matt Scott as we get ready for Kutztown. Jim Clements, one of the best in the business, 2-time PSAC champs. I believe number 4 in the country, depending on which poll you look at. I think 6 in the other. Novak's a guy that's been there. They win. I mean, that's all there is to it. They win. Have you ever crossed paths with Kutztown with your time in New Haven? I assume you probably did, right?
Yeah, we played them in 21, second round, the post playoffs there. Lost them 10-7. So it was a defensive battle through and through for sure.
Obviously, their expectations are to be, the region champs. What can you tell us? How different are they this year than last year? We saw them last year. I feel like most of the wide receiving core is gone. I watched the game against Assumption. Doesn't seem to matter. I think they put 55 on the board against a pretty good Assumption team. What is your, obviously Novak's still there. He's a wily vet already. He's going to be what feels like one of those lifers. But they just play winning football.
Yeah, if you watch the game, they just found a way to make plays. Even in situations where, they're not in their favor. I mean, converting 3rd and 23, 2nd and 20, 4th down and 5, having mistakes, procedural penalties, and then the next play getting a big play. Doing a great job in special teams, forces a bad snap over the punter's head for a safety. So they just did all the things that good football teams do. They did. They found a way, instead of continuing to keep shooting themselves in the foot, they found a way to be able to overcome, maybe a mistake that they might have made. They put a lot of pressure on Assumption to be able to make plays, found the mismatches, exposed the mismatches. So, again, pretty much a clinic by their coaching staff and their players executing their season opening win.
And dealing with 2 weather delays, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's always the toughest thing, man. I feel bad anytime I see weather delays because I just remember the times where we'd be waiting to try and get out there and get the game done.
Now, I did want to ask, I asked this to Jaret, I'll ask it to you. No disrespect to anybody else, but if you are going to have a week 1 bye, probably Kutztown is the best opponent to have because it's Kutztown. They've won the league twice. They're a national program. How was the bye week, dealing with that? Because, again, you look at it, you're good on you. You get an extra week to prepare for maybe the best team you'll play all year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you worry about sometimes is obviously, coming out in this game and starting slow and not being ready to flip the switch from having that bye week. But I thought we attacked the week really well. Monday through Friday was a grind. We were out there every day getting our work in, getting our prep in, just like we were getting ready to play Kutztown on that last Saturday. We did a little bit more banging against each other just to make sure we don't let we get those calluses going there. And as far as a banging is concerned, but I thought it was a great week by our kids. They did a great job of obviously having juice and energy, feeling good about getting a big win, but also being able to flip that page and understand that you've got a national team coming into our house, home opener, an opportunity to really set the tone for our season and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think our kids did a great job of handling that.
Now, the one sort of downside, and obviously it won't be any easier and maybe not an opportunity to remedy it. But running the football, 2.9 a carry. I know the sack yardage rolls into that. It's if you're going to continue to win football games, everybody knows you want to be balanced. But what do you got to do to be able to run the football more consistently than 2.8, 2.9 a carry?
Yeah, I think as our staff looked at it, it's just continuing to find those alignments that are going to give us favorable matchups in the box. And I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at, hey, were we efficient in what we needed to do? Did we were able to find ways to move the ball, find ways to score? Yes, we were able to do that. So by any stretch, we don't want to hit the panic button. That was a great defense in East Stroudsburg. We're going to get ready for another great defense this week. So let's not panic too much as far as our ability to run the football. I think there was plays out there for us, and I still think there's a lot under the table there that we'll be able to get out over the next couple weeks to get the run game going a little bit.
Good, bad, or indifferent, how much use of last year's game film do you have in that matchup, which was legitimately maybe the hottest I've ever been, to the point where huddle cams were shutting down and broadcasting equipment was shutting down because it was so hot? Is there anything that you can take from that, good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, it gets me really excited when I watch the guys that are returning were out there playing. One, I see guys bigger. I see guys more confident. I see guys playing a lot more faster than they did last year. And so that gets me excited with, hey, there were some mistakes and there were some things that they would like to have done better. But, man, it's a completely different product from what I'm seeing over through camp, through the first game, through these weeks of prep getting up for Kutztown. So that gets me really excited when I go back and watch the tape. I don't get too caught up in the schemes and things like that. It's really just the matchups and how our guys responded in some of those situations last year, and to see how much they've grown gets me excited for this week.
Got to give the people what they want. The only reason they come, everyone's favorite game. 3 reasons you win, 3 reasons you lose.
3 reasons that we win. We do a tremendous job of containing the quarterback. He does a great job of improvising and making some things happen. They'll run some quarterback draws that are almost borderline RPO. Is he going to throw the slot fade, or is he going to tuck it down and run? And then obviously just scrambling off of traditional pass plays. We've got to do a great job. One of the things that will help us win this game is just not having negative plays on offense. Continuing to move the ball forward in everything we do, pass game, run game wise, and then special teams is going to be huge. Great teams play great special teams. They're no different. They're going to put pressure on the punt team. They're going to guys running down the kickoff. So we've got to win in special teams. We've got to have positive plays on offense, and we've got to contain the quarterback. If we do those 3 things, we're going to have a chance to win.
Now, obviously, you talked about, and don't turn it over. You got to get. Nico had the one bad, and you can't account for the bad bounce. But the other thing that I thought was incredibly impressive was how tidy you were in the penalty. With all the pre-snap motion, I don't think you had a single procedural penalty. How proud of you? And obviously, if you continue to play that way, that's a recipe to really win football games, because there's so many hidden yards where 2nd and 2 turns into 2nd and 7. 2nd and 2 is ideal. But how proud of you are of the guys, and not only the players but the coaches. That everybody knew, everybody's on the same page. As you mentioned, nobody lost their cool. It seemed to be a real workman-like mentality down there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, everything you couldn't ask for a better debut. And again, hopefully that gives us confidence. But also doesn't give us the arrogance to realize that, like, hey, man, is all the work that we put into it that got us into that position. That's really what we talked about, our guys just going back to work, doing the things that led us to have success. And again, the kids, they believe in what we're doing. They believed in it before game 1. They believe in it now even more so. But again, it's another challenge. Every week it's hard to win. You watch all the games on Saturday. Teams that shouldn't lose to those teams lose. Teams that go out there and take care of their business and handle and beat teams. You got to come on there. You got to be prepared. You got to be ready to go. You got to be ready to make your adjustments. And so our guys that just did a great job of coming out fast, coming out ready to go. That's how we practice. We start off practice right out of stretch. During camp, we go right into a team period. It's about starting fast, being ready to go, being able to execute, make those adjustments. So our guys really did a great job of just, executing what we've been asking them to do all camp long and all practice so far. So.
Reminder, digital tickets. So you're going to have to go GoFightingScots.com. Airtime on the Fighting Scots radio network presented by ErieInjury.com is noon and a 1 o'clock kick. Coach Scott?
Go Burrow.
All right, that's it for Scott Talk with Matt Scott. Until next time, thanks to everyone here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake, and hopefully we'll be back next week with a 2-0 Matt Scott.